What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. By now I'm sure you've all heard the news about Overwatch 2 canceling its PvE, and while I was unfortunately unable to make a video covering it at the time of the announcement, I did want to do a follow-up video sharing my thoughts because a lot of people were asking me what I thought about this new information, about this change in direction with Overwatch 2, and honestly I do have quite a few thoughts on it, so let's go ahead and jump right on in. First and foremost by saying that the cancellation of the hero missions and talent trees for Overwatch 2's PvE is horrible. Now, it is a lot more complicated than that, but overall, I think this is going to be pretty damaging to Overwatch 2 and just the Overwatch IP overall. So many people were hyped for the PvE and getting to play those highly replayable hero missions where you can play any hero you want. Pick your favorite hero, and there's a ton of progression for them through the talent trees and being able to level them up, all while playing these fun, diverse missions where you have all these different objectives and get to fight all these variant enemy types. And from what we now understand, that's all gone. We do still have these story-focused campaign missions, which I will be talking about in just a moment, but certainly this announcement of what's going to be cut from Overwatch 2's PvE has dealt a terrible blow to morale in the community, and honestly, I don't know whether or not Blizzard will be able to recover from it. Basically, every single Overwatch-related community on the internet right now is raging about this decision, and from a PR perspective, this is pretty catastrophic. Regardless of how good the other content we end up getting in place of this PvE cancellation ends up being. Going forward, people will forever and understandably rail on Overwatch as the game that after 3+ years of developing the PvE suddenly decided to cancel it, and that is not a burden which any game wants to carry. Even if the campaign PvE missions end up miraculously being amazing, this is something which the game will always be carrying with it and leaves a terrible impression of the game within the minds of the community and even people who don't play the game. Now, let's get in a bit deeper. Personally, I am very disappointed about all this, obviously, but mainly because the hero missions and talents were what I personally was most excited about. Story-focused campaign missions, okay, those are cool, learn more about the characters and the events of the game, but honestly, those really just seemed like something that you'd play through once to get a sense of the story, and then you'd go over to the hero missions to actually have fun. So the fact that the most anticipated part of the game for me is now no longer going to be a thing, yeah, I'm pretty bitter. But at the same time, I'm not going to be one of those people who goes all in saying that, oh, this is the worst decision Blizzard has ever made. Heck, I'm not even fully convinced it's necessarily a bad decision, considering the context of everything surrounding it. An important thing to note is that the cancellation of the Overwatch 2 PvE in the form that we previously saw it was going to be isn't the problem here. The problem is the context surrounding it, which led to the decision to cancel the PvE. It's not like Blizzard just said, oh, we'll just cancel it because, why not? No, they canceled it because they realized they're in a position where it didn't make sense to keep working on it. Whether that was because of initially over-ambitious goals, horrible mismanagement within the company, many of the OG Overwatch developers leaving, realistically, it's probably some amalgamation of all of those, but that's really the issue. Those things which led to the cancellation as opposed to the canceling itself. So with that in mind, I can't really blame Blizzard for canceling the PvE, and it probably was actually the best decision, as bizarre as that may sound. Clearly, Blizzard realized that whatever efforts they were putting into those hero missions and talents and all that weren't going to pan out to be something good. Now, we on the outside will never know what that would have ended up looking like if they had continued working on the PvE. Realistically, it would likely end up meaning that whatever we got would be something terrible, or at the very least, something several years still down the line. In fact, the devs have even talked about that, basically saying that their ambitions and goals for the PvE would basically take them several years to actually realize, which I don't think anyone in the Overwatch community would be happy to be a part of. We've already waited long enough. We don't need to keep waiting even more. So in a sense, I'm glad that Blizzard canceled this side of the PvE if it means they can focus on actual things that we'll be getting in the near future. It's a matter of Blizzard cutting their losses in order to save at least some of the things they're working on. These campaign story missions, whatever they end up actually being, hopefully they will be good as a result of canceling the hero missions and all that. Again, Hopefully, because we don't know yet, and when it comes to Blizzard in recent years, I'll believe it when I see it. But the true unfortunate reality of this situation is that Blizzard as a company right now is so chaotic, so mismanaged, and so horrifically all over the place in what it's trying to achieve, led to this cancellation. It sucks, but it's the reality we live in, and we just gotta try to make the most of it, for whatever most of it can be made. So, let's talk a bit about that. What can be made of the PvE at this point? Well, the campaign missions are all that seem to be left, plus anonymous upcoming hero event things that are going to be PvE related. Who knows what those end up being? Maybe those will be interesting, maybe they won't. Certainly Starwatch hasn't painted a very optimistic picture of the future of event game modes, but the story campaign missions at the very least. Can these be good? Theoretically, yes. Personally, the best co-op PvE game I have ever played is Left 4 Dead 2. That is a fantastic game which I have hundreds of hours invested in, and it doesn't have talent trees for the various playable characters. It doesn't have highly randomized map objectives and layouts and enemy types you encounter. It's pretty straightforward with the missions itself, and yet delivers an incredibly fun and incredibly enjoyable and even incredibly replayable gameplay experience that fits into that co-op PvE genre. So to that end, I'd certainly say it's possible for the Overwatch 2 story campaign missions to do something similar to Left 4 Dead and deliver a fun, engaging experience without all those extra bells and whistles we were promised with the talent trees and hero missions, but will it achieve that? This is where I think we unfortunately have to get into the reality of the state of Blizzard as a company right now, and as I already mentioned, I think it's very chaotic internally, such that even with Blizzard trying to narrow their focus of what they're actually working on by focusing more heavily on the PvP and the season structure and these campaign missions, I'm not really confident that Blizzard will be able to deliver something great? Again, I'll believe it when I see it. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe. If you're really optimistic, which I used to be optimistic, those 7+ years of Overwatch has certainly stripped that from me at this point. But it is possible that we get something cool with this. It is possible that the campaign missions are fun and far more replayable than I've given them credit for being, but I have a lot of reasons to be skeptical. Some of the reasons are even on the more technical side of things, where I think just the fact that heroes are designed with inherent abilities tied to them just massively complicates any sort of attempt to do a Left 4 Dead style PvE experience. Like, Reinhardt is always going to have a hammer and a barrier, Tracer's always going to be able to blink around, Lucio's always going to be the world's most obnoxious frog. There are inherent qualities to these heroes and their mechanics that will add a really complex element to the game itself that I think if we look back at the Overwatch 1 Archives missions, we did see be a bit of an issue. Characters like Doomfist were basically worthless in the PvE Archives missions just by the simple nature of how his abilities work and how those interacted with large swarms of dumb PvE goons. And maybe this is something that Blizzard does sort of end up accounting for by only making certain heroes playable in these story campaign missions in order to just further narrow the focus and making the missions themselves fun and balanced and engaging. But that's getting far more in depth with like the PvE mechanics and the nitty-gritty of it, which we simply don't know enough details about yet at this point, and I'll probably save talking about that for some other time. But what I will say for now is that it is certainly disappointing to have learned what we've learned about the future of Overwatch 2's PvE, and while PvE will still exist in some form, apparently, I personally have very little confidence in it at this point. Blizzard as a company has just time and time and time again over the past few years let us down and given us subpar content and updates, to the point that if something good does get delivered, I'll certainly enjoy it and sing it praise, but I am not going to be sitting here getting my hopes up. I'll believe it when I see it and nothing more. Now, having delved into my thoughts on the PvE, let's talk a bit about the other new content we've seen coming, particularly the information revealed in the upcoming roadmap for Seasons 5, 6, and beyond. Now, while the roadmap itself was only released as damage control for the announcement that hero missions and talent trees are being cut, it does still give us a juicy bit of information to look into and get excited for in the months ahead. So, starting off with Season 5, the big headliner is Quest Watch, a new limited time event. Now, as I already mentioned and have talked about in past videos, if Star Watch is anything to go by, I have very low expectations for Quest Watch. It looks like it's going to be some sort of Final Fantasy JRPG inspired game mode, which is a really fun idea, and I am genuinely curious to see what this ends up being, but I don't have very high expectations for it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be fun. If anything, Star Watch being mediocre is just an indicator that, Blizzard is still experimenting with things, and I'm sure they'll take a lot of what they learned from designing Star Watch and use it to try and make Quest Watch even better, but I'll believe it when I see it. Hopefully it's good, but I'm not going to get my hopes up too much. Right alongside Quest Watch, we also have the Mischief and Magic, which is, I believe, the theme for Season 5, which tells me that the theme season is going to be some sort of fantasy adventure theme. So yeah, maybe Lord of the Rings-esque, or maybe a bit more JRPG-esque, dwarves, elves, orcs, those sorts of fun fantasy races, along with all sorts of wizards and rogues and paladins type stuff. It seems like that's what the theme is going to end up being, which honestly, there's a lot of potential on the skins and cosmetic sides of things with that theme, and I am very excited to see what sort of new cosmetic content we get with it, since if there is one thing which Overwatch 2 has consistently been doing well since its launch, it is the art side of things. The skins, despite how ludicrously expensive they've been, have overall been really good since the launch of Overwatch 2, simply on an aesthetic front, so I am hoping that we get some cool new cosmetics with this event, even if they will cost us a fortune. The other stuff coming in Season 5 seems pretty meh to me. It looks like the new Sojourn cinematic is going to get released, seeing that we see Sojourn's dog here in the cinematic reveal image. That's whatever. I mean, I've honestly kind of lost hype for cinematics at this point. I'm sure it'll be fun and cool getting to see it, but I'd much rather just focus on a fun game to play that isn't frustrating and drains my will to live. Summer games, cool, 5v5 mini comp season, On Fire returns, creator workshop mode. Neat, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how interesting those end up being once we actually get them. But one thing I would like to point out before moving on to Season 6 is the seeming absence of a new map being added in Season 5. Now, we do know there will be multiple new maps coming in Season 6, which is pretty exciting, but no new map in Season 5. 5 seasons in, and Blizzard already can't keep to their cadence of a new map or new hero every season. Am I surprised? No, not really, but come on, you couldn't give us a new control map or something in Season 5, really? Well, I guess they're trying to hold as much exciting content as they can for Season 6, which, as we see, is when we'll see the debut of the story missions. I don't think I have much more to say about the story missions here that I haven't already said in the previous part of this video, so cool, I'll leave them at that. It is also announced that we'll be getting what is evidently going to be a new Peruvian support hero. The reason we suspect that they're going to be from Peru is that the background artwork we see here matches up to the Peru poster we see in the most recent Antarctic Peninsula map, so that seems like a pretty blatant teaser right there. This is almost certainly going to be a Peruvian support hero. And while we don't have much to really speculate on in terms of their abilities and mechanics and personality at this point, it is exciting just seeing, new hero coming down the line, always pretty cool. But then we also get the Flashpoint announcement, which is evidently the new game mode, which Blizzard has actually mentioned a few times before and has said that will be coming out sometime this year. And I believe they stated that there will be 2 new maps releasing with Flashpoint. So yeah, I'm sure that's why they don't have a Season 5 map, because they're releasing multiple new maps in the new game mode in Season 6, and based on the artwork here, it looks like we may at long last end up seeing that India map, which has been teased since as far back as BlizzCon 2019, and also we have Hero Mastery, which sounds like sort of like time trial, score trial, just like doing the best you can on a given hero in a hero-focused, mini-personal, single-player mission type thing. I'm not excited for this, personally. This sounds like something that people who are really into like the perfect timing mechanics of heroes would enjoy, and that's simply not me. I can't really see myself having any real interest in playing these hero mastery things, but I'm sure there is people who'll enjoy them. They just seem sort of boring to me. And also they've mentioned firing range, player progression system, Overwatch anniversary, and more. Cool. Coming in Season 6. I don't know why the Overwatch anniversary has been determined to come in Season 6, since that'll be neither the anniversary of Overwatch 1 nor the the anniversary of Overwatch 2, unless it's like something that happens at the very end of Season 6 when it rolls over to Season 7, who knows, but either way, cool, I guess, more things coming in Season 6. And Season 7 and beyond, a new tank hero, which will most likely be coming in Season 8, since it's every even-numbered season. Personally, I would actually prefer if we got a new DPS hero instead of a tank next, because I think the tank category is already sufficient as is, but, you know, Blizzard has their thing, they'll develop the heroes they want to develop, so tank hero coming in Season 8, let's at least hope they're interesting. New collab event with a limited time mode, that'll be exciting to see. New control map as well, likely coming in Season 7. Winter event, more hero mastery missions, bunch of other fan favorite modes returning, more cinematics, competitive mystery heroes, yeah, just a bunch of jumbled stuff. Also, though, they mentioned Roadhog and Sombra reworks coming in Season 7 at the earliest. That's not good to hear. Yeah, I quite like Roadhog as a hero, and I've lamented not being able to play him for the past couple months now. And now I have to wait until at least Season 7 for Roadhog to be viable again. Well, maybe he'll be viable again once he's reworked. The Brig Ultimate rework certainly didn't give much in terms of confidence for Blizzard's ability to rework older heroes. Yeah, I don't know why reworks take this long. Like, this is genuinely concerning that they have such a slow rework cadence here. Why? Like, why is it not easier to just do something to help fix it? Again, I'm sure it has to do with internal chaos at Blizzard, so, you know, the devs can only do so much, and I definitely understand that, but still, we have to wait this long for the heroes to get reworked? Seriously? And also there is the Lore Codex, which will be coming in Season 7 at the earliest. Cool, I guess. If I'm being honest, the Overwatch lore at this point has kind of lost me. This is probably something I'll talk about more in a separate video that I can sort of dedicate more attention to, but I've lost much of my interest in the story at this point. I think the way Blizzard has just kept us waiting for so long at this point. It's like, you can only wait for something so long before you just cease to have interest in it anymore. I mean, especially when there are so many other stories to consume out there and games to play and things to spend your life doing, it just becomes harder and harder to justify sitting there and waiting for Overwatch 2, or at least to do so with the same amount of vigor and enthusiasm that I personally used to have. I still enjoy hearing the new characters' backstories and seeing their interactions and learning bits and pieces more about the world, but the idea of getting a lore codex is like, I'd rather just play a fun game. And the final thing I guess I could mention, which is actually moving a bit off of the Overwatch roadmap, is the announcement of BlizzCon coming back in early November. That'll be interesting. I think the announcement of BlizzCon the day after the announcement that Overwatch 2 PvE was canceled was a brilliant PR move on Blizzard's part. But that'll be interesting, I think, especially given how much people seem to hate Blizzard at this point. Oh yeah, lots of excitement for BlizzCon. Woo, cannot wait. But yeah, I think that does it for wrapping up my thoughts on all the announcements from this past week. Again, I do apologize I wasn't able to get this video out sooner. There were some personal things going on in my life which prevented me from doing a video sooner, but I did want to cover it when I got the chance, and here you go. Overall, yeah, pretty devastating news this week. There's no sugarcoating that. There are little bits and pieces in the roadmap that are interesting or exciting, but by and large, it is pretty devastating to hear about the ultimate fate of Overwatch 2's PvE. Again, hoping the story missions end up being good and fun to play and whatnot, but yeah, I've lost basically all my hope for Overwatch 2 PvE at this point. I do still enjoy playing the Overwatch 2 PvP, and if nothing else, maybe the cancellation of PvE will benefit the PvP side and make it better balanced and more content and, you know, that sort of stuff. So perhaps there will be a silver lining to it, even if it's one that we don't really get a good look at just from the outside. But overall, these have been my thoughts. I know a lot of people are talking about it now. It's definitely a big, exciting topic, but definitely let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. Are you as devastated as most people are about the cancellation of PvE, or maybe there's some elements of this roadmap which do have you excited still? Either way, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible, and if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. And otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, let's just hope Overwatch can keep going.